Hi guys, it's Ivy. Two videos in one day. So I want to show you guys how I fertilize my plants. I use a fish fertilizer. I got this any plant store, big box store. I like to use the fish more than chemical fertilizer, just because there's less chance of it burning and killing my plants. Um, so when I fertilize, I find my plants that are growing. If they're popping out new little babies, I want to give them food for them to push out the biggest leaves they can. If they're not growing, especially in the winter, I won't fertilize them. I maybe fertilize twice in the winter if something's still growing. But you don't want to overload them and burn their roots if they're dormant. So a lot of my plants right now are growing. I fertilized 2 weeks ago, and I want to fertilize them again today. So get some loud cars. This Maranta is growing a bunch of new babies from the bottom. It's pushing out from the top. I want to give it some food, so I made sure I watered it a few days before, so it's not dry. If the soil is very dry, it's more than likely going to burn the roots, and you're gonna see it. It's gonna put the plant into shock. So you want them to be mostly wet. So if you water at least a week before, if they are not draining a lot of water. So you want them to still be wet. You don't want them to be bone dry. So I have almost a gallon. It's 3 liters of water. I designate this for my fertilizer because it's very stinky. This fish fertilizer is very, very smelly. So I do it outside or sometimes in the bathtub with my big plants, but I don't like the smell of it. It stinks. So usually on the back of the bottle, you will see their directions on how to do houseplants and vegetables and gardens and stuff like that. I take that into consideration when I do mine, but I don't want to over-fertilize them. I would rather under-fertilize than over-fertilize. So with about a gallon, I try to do a teaspoon of fertilizer, up to 2 teaspoons, depending on what I'm fertilizing. You can do some research on which plants like a lot of fertilizer, which plants will harm them, or what what plants will be harmed by a lot of fertilizing. There's a squirrel in my yard. So you want to shake this very well to get all that nasty gunky stuff up from the bottom. And child block it. Alright. So it's gross. It smells. So I'm just gonna pour, not try to get it on me, a teaspoon in here. Pour that right into here. I'm gonna do a teaspoon and a half, just because I have done 2 teaspoons on all of these plants out here, and they seemed fine with it. They didn't have any issues, so, oops, a little too much. Just gonna do 1.5 teaspoons. And then that doesn't fit in there to start, but you can shake it. And put that over there to wash. Okay. So it gets a little murky, which is good. Stir if you have anything to stir it with. I don't, but we'll just shake it. So I have 2 of my plants that were pretty dry that I'm not going to fertilize right now because I don't want to burn them. So I just watered my Brazil philodendron, and I'm going to fertilize him in a few days. I try to fertilize all of my plants at once, but this guy dries really fast, so I kind of have to do it on a schedule with him. And then my heartleaf philodendron wasn't too dry, but I just gave him a little bit more water just to soak up that before I fertilize. So you want to pretty much do the same thing as watering. I know some people water in the summer. Every time they water, they fertilize. You can do that if you cut back on how much you put in your water. I like to just water when I can, and when I have, like, it's more of a therapeutic thing for me. Fertilizing them takes a very long time because I have to keep refilling this and then move all my plants so they don't pee, nasty fish smell all over the floor. There's an airplane, I'm so sorry. So you want to fertilize pretty much the same way as watering them. So I'm gonna wait. See, yep, okay. Ooh, don't get on me. So he's peeing out the bottom, which is good. That'll get washed away. The dogs will love that smell. I'm trying to get it through the cracks of the porch. So he's good. I'm gonna put him down. He is fertilized. Okay, and then my other Maranta. And I just propagated off these guys, so I want to give them some food to push out new growth and help their leaves get bigger. If you seem to be getting small leaves, every time they grow, leaves keep getting smaller and smaller, you want to feed them. The soil in there, there's a bird yelling at me. He's on the roof yelling at me. The soil, when they grow, they can suck out all the nutrients out of the soil when you've planted them in there or when you bought them, and the leaves will get smaller and smaller. Like this guy's got a lot of really small growth. I want him to get bigger. So some of the new ones, since I fertilized a couple weeks ago, the new leaves are going to be pretty big. So I'm excited about that. He is dripping. Okay, that's good. And then my golden pothos, going to fertilize her. She's a heavy one. All right, so and I just watered her yesterday, so she might pee most of this out from the bottom. There it goes. All right, so that's dripping. Put you down here. And I'll do my Hartley philodendron too. A lot of the chemical fertilizer is too harsh, especially for tropical plants. I mean, it's whatever you use. If it's working for you, keep using it. Just be very careful with it, especially touching your face with the chemicals in the fertilizer. I try to use the most organic, non-motorcycle, the most organic fertilizer, something that they would get in the wild anyways. Another really good fertilizer is worm castings that you can top dress and kind of mix into the top 3 inches of soil. These plants here, I can't really dig into the soil without either popping them out or moving them and destroying some of the leaves. So my big plants, I will top dress with worm castings instead of my fish fertilizer. And the worm castings, every time you water, will saturate into the soil and give it the food it needs. So if you have any more questions on fertilizing, I know this is kind of quick. I mean, it's almost a 10-minute video, but it's very simple. Any more questions on fertilizing, or if you want to see more of how I try to get my plants as big as possible, let me know. Thank you. Bye.